What is up, everyone? Good morning, YouTube. Good morning, everyone. How do you like this background? This is different. This is a lot better from what you're used to. Hope you don't mind me clearing my throat, but hope everyone's doing okay today. And interesting start to the day, right? I wake up and I see I don't have internet, I don't have service, I don't have anything. So there's a blackout, service blackout in Canada over here. Rogers is down, and Rogers provides internet to like other like subsidiaries. You got like Fido and whatnot, and or service, I would say, and then internet as well. And then they have a bunch of little guys beneath them. So I didn't have internet. I didn't have internet at home. I don't have any like cell service either. Like it's pretty dead. So that's gonna be interesting. I couldn't trade this NFP report today, and that is um the main topic of the session, right? The NFP. It's something that we've been waiting for a while. We have it the first Friday of every month, and now that it is July 8th, geez, now that it's July 8th, we have the NFP report that came out today this morning at 8:30. And we'll talk about that, right? We'll talk about this market rally that has been going on. If you follow us on Twitter, you'll see that we're not big fans of this market rally. We'll talk about the Fed, some of the Fed comments from this NFP report, and what we could see, right? What we could see today, because a lot of those gains were given up based on this report here this morning. So let's dive right into that. First and foremost, the NFP report, right? We had it this morning, 8:30 a.m. Eastern. And let me just check the number real quick. We had an expected 237,000 jobs to be added in the month of June, right? Previously, it was 333, right? 333,000 in the month of May. So I think the expectations were a little higher. Again, these numbers aren't like super exact. Some sources are saying May 390, right, and then 268 for June. However, the number actually came out at 381, right, 381,000 in comparison to like between 230 and 260, right. So huge beat in that front. Over 100,000 jobs added, more than the expectation for the month of June, right. So we're seeing downside in this market. We saw a pretty big slip because yesterday we managed to just trickle into that top distribution. Remember, if you guys were watching our morning update yesterday, you would have noticed that we were very like bullish on the day, right? We were leaning a lot more to the upside, even though there was not that great of buying, and we'll talk about that too. So the buying wasn't that great. However, there were just too many signs that were leading for a bullish run. Now, markets down from that NFP report fairly significantly, right? We dropped into the 38.70, I believe, before we caught somewhat of a bid. And that is a pretty steep decline for about like 30 odd points from around the overnight session. And that's due to the market taking this as the Federal Reserve now has validity and validation to continue as they wanted to with the quantitative tightening and the rate hikes. So now the chance of a 75 base point rate hike by the end of this month has increased based on this jobs report. Because if we have a healthier labor market, quote unquote, healthier labor market, healthier economy, we can proceed as normal to potentially have a soft landing, right? Said lightly. So based on that, the market declined fairly drastically because we have the pricing in of a 75 basis point hike. We also have year-end Fed's funds rate swap to be increased, right? I think the expectation is at 3.58% by the end of the year. Based on a lot of these hikes, that could be a potential if we keep triple hiking into the end of the year. So we had the CPI report as well. First and foremost, Jerome Powell said that he recently called the labor market unsustainably high, right? So, right, it's interesting because he's been talking a lot about how strong the economy is. Now we're seeing the unsustainably high labor market, and inflation fears are still around. So the premise and question around a soft landing starts to become more and more skeptical, right? In terms of the bigger picture, the CPI report pretty much dominated the non-farms over much of the past year as inflation became much more of a theme. But now we're kind of mixing and matching both those because we have the inflation fears, right? Meaning we have to hike. Then the labor market. Is the economy strong enough to sustain it? Now they start really intertwining, and the recession fears start clouding the outlook and the yield curve inverting this week. So the jobs report is set to regain its prominence and pretty much did, right? We had a very strong reaction from that jobs report. So we'll see how today shapes up. But right now, as it stands, um, prices are trying to pull up off those lows. If we lose that 38.70 area, we're going to see that 38.40. If we lose the 38.40 today to the downside and there's a massive reoffer, we're going back into a big distribution block to the downside that opens up a 40-50 point drop, right? I'm still under the impression we try to get into the distribution block into the mid 3900s, maybe even 4K before we start seeing this thing really topping out. But if you take a look at the volume over the last few days, there's not really much to tell us that, hey, this is a prominent rally, right? Like, hey, where we're actually um, getting a strong bid, right? That's not the case. People are not buying drastically, right? People are not buying a lot. People are not buying uh, institutionally, right? It's a lot of retail, it's a lot of short squeezing. We're not seeing those big inflows of money. And if you look at sector rotation, right, what is the better performing sector right now? It's going to be utilities. Some of the better performing sectors are risk off sectors, technically equity risk off sectors, right, that are outperforming those that should be performing well, that are the majority of the market cap of the S&P, right? We've seen that a lot of the FANG names have done well on a pretty crappy bid. So I'm expecting some kind of turnaround, but I think they might have a squeeze more, maybe a bit more in them before we start seeing things turning around. So the main topic of conversation naturally is going to be the Fed, right? We have Fed Bostic speaking right now. He did say a few interesting things. Let me just check here before I start lying to you and making things up in my head. Um, He is looking for a softer landing, but he's also supportive of a 75 basis point hike in July. He says that the recession fears are not to be of concern just yet. He's trying to hike, but he's also trying to create the narrative of a soft landing. We're gonna see how this NFP shapes up today, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it get bid up a bit. I think this is just a little overreaction, but that is, if we lose 38.70, it's going to be very, very hard for that to happen in the S&P. A very pivotal level. We lost a lot of yesterday's ground overnight due to this report. So I'm going to be watching that. I'm still slightly bullish based on that pivot and also with text based on that pivot. If that pivot fails, though, you know what to do. It is Friday, so you got to trade less, right? Fridays are not going to be the days that make up your whole week. So if you had a good week, maybe not even trade at all. If you can risk some, trade a bit. Now, one of the most unfortunate things that happened that I feel like we should talk about a bit, right? We had Shinzo Abe, Japan's former prime minister, right? He died after being shot in a campaign event in the city of Nara. Abe was he was at a political gathering to give support for his former party, the Liberal Democratic Party, with upper house elections in Japan due to take place on Sunday. And apparently, there's a 41-year-old man in custody that lives in Nara following this assassination, and local media suggests that there had been a disagreement of some sort with Abe's policy and decided to attack him. So very, very unfortunate. I'm not going to get very political. I don't know shit about Japanese politics. Barely know anything about politics in general. But RIP, that's unfortunate. It was one of the larger figures in the world. Naturally, Japan's a big country, so condolences over there. I'm not necessarily sure what happened, but I'm not going to talk too much about that. Realistically, our focus is going to be on the market, and unfortunately, but we have to take that into consideration here. So I just want to check quickly what some of these equity markets are doing here. A decent little rebound. We're coming into some of those key resistances. So I really, really, really want to see 38.70s, low 38.70s hold on the S&P 500 futures today if we're going to see some kind of bidding, right? Otherwise, we're going to see a lot of breakdown. We're going to see a distribution attack to the downside and could be a larger slip. But I'm still under the impression that they do want to bid this up a little more before that selling comes in, before that CPI report comes in next week. I believe it's next week. Before that CPI report comes in next week, I think that there is going to be somewhat of a bid into that report. Then into mid-end July, we are going to see that capitulation for that next leg to the downside. So let's keep that in mind today. Trade small, trade quick, in and out. Don't fall in love with over trading on a Friday, especially if you've done well in the week. And I hope you guys enjoyed this background. Have a great weekend. It's no longer a long weekend. I feel like every weekend until this weekend recently has been a long weekend. So I hope everyone enjoys the weekend, get some rest, and we'll be back at it. Now, don't forget that we have weekly updates that are posted on our website. We also have a free version of that that's posted on a little delayed front. But if you guys want to check that out, check out last week's. It's already been, or Sundays, it's already been dropped to see what the hell we were talking about and why we were bullish. So I want to bid you all a good trading day. And we'll see you Monday. Take care and thank you for watching. Is that a stripper pool? Which one? That one? Yeah, I'm in a stripper setting right now. Alex, thank you for noticing. Bye.